So check this out. Some goofball wrote in an article about Saquon Barkley being the worst decision that Dave Gettleman made in his Giants career. Not just one, I've seen another article. I usually don't want to give them any attention because they don't deserve it for just dropping eye candy articles. But I figured if these two writers ever want to take their career to the next level, and they don't want to just be stuck at their own same old blog posts where they're not really making much money, and not many people are really going to read what they're writing, you might want to pay attention because this is constructive criticism. You need to be much more aware of how the NFL landscape is, what goes around, and understand that sometimes, even though people have their blueprint with what they want to do based on their experience, that the league is a copycat league as well. So to me, when I saw Dave Gettleman take Saquon Barkley at number 2 overall, I could easily envision him not only trying to copy what the Giants had success with in the past, but as well as what another team very close in their conference did. In fact, the division rival Cowboys did, which was go offensive lineman heavy the first 3 drafts, I believe, starting in, I believe, 2012. Either 2012 or 2013. But making first-round choices like Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, that also followed suit with their first offensive lineman pick, Tyron Smith, a couple years back. They were definitely fortifying their offensive line, which it was so phenomenal, and they did a great job and actually kept Romo up for once. Romo definitely needed a potential running back to be a potent offense. They lost Murray, I believe, to the Eagles not too long ago, but fast forwarding to where they took Zeke Elliott, it was the perfect situation. And yes, there was a couple people at first, they're like, oh, they took a running back at 4, but they're like, oh, they got that great O-line, so now it's going to be something crazy. Watch him. And then they gave the Cowboys praise. And, to me, it just shows, people can be, what's the word I'm looking for? Stuck with the current and not really look things around and not realize that, the Cowboys kind of set themselves up for a potent rushing attack with a really talented running back at 4. So, it was a great pick. What says that Dave Gettleman can't do the same? So he took the running back before he built the offensive line. Eventually, you're going to get there and be able to get your pieces. But I also think Saquon Barkley is a very talented guy. In fact, I'd go to say when he hangs up his cleats, he'll be considered the best running back in NFL history. All right? That's just my take on that. But I also believe when you have such a great talent available there, that's easily the best player available. To me, he was the best player available at number 1 in that draft class. The only other guy I think that would have given him his run for his money is Bradley Chubb as a pass rusher. And that's basically it. The top 3 players were definitely Saquon Barkley, Bradley Chubb, and for the lack of my memory, let me recheck this. Quentin Nelson was his name. So, there you have it. I believe those were the top 3. Denzel Ward also makes a case to be on that list. And if I was to do a top 5 to round it up, I definitely would have Denzel in there, as well as, there's a lot of talented guys like Derwin James, Tremaine Edmonds, Leighton Vander Esch, Mika Fitzpatrick. A lot of talented guys. But I would say definitely top 5. You would have to include Lamar Jackson on that list as well. So definitely a lot of talented guys. In my opinion, just based on how it was going, the draft scenario, this is where it's like, to me, you got to capitalize on this if you're a GM. And this is why I think is what prevents Gettleman from being a really good GM. In spite of all the experience, all the knowledge he has. You got to think about it. On paper, his resume shows that he's supposed to be the next Bill Belichick, all right? the guy that comes in and installs a dynasty for a franchise. However, I don't think as the lone decision maker at GM that he's able to do it. I think he needs to be partnered up with somebody else and be able to almost kind of like, if I say someone that's young-minded and that young-minded person, very passionate, very willing to change the whole culture. Well, not culture. Let's not use that word. I think it's disgusting. But to change the whole landscape of, the failures that the franchise has been going through. Someone who's brave, passionate, and excited enough for the challenge, matched with the experience and wisdom Gettleman has as he's ever been, as he's been experienced through being the word slipping my mind, an NFL executive in a sense, being in the front office and all sorts. As a senior advisor, I think that would be a great plan for what John Mara and Steve Tisch could implement for their franchise. And it just shows, like, going back to what I'm saying, like, because he can't do it by himself. The draft was perfectly laid out. His first time, to me, it was a home run, an easy pick to get Saquon Barkley at 2. And I don't think that he needs to change that pick to make that team better. All right? If anything, what he did afterwards, what did he do after the first round pick? People forget about that. Everyone wants to talk about that first pick, but no one wants to talk about the rest of the draft class and how well they have been how successful they've been. Frankly speaking, I can't tell you if they're better than the draft class that Reese would bring in, where you would get 1-2 really good players in the first 2 rounds, maybe 1 in the 4th, 5th if you get lucky. The rest, you don't even remember who they are. But, you have to capitalize on situations. In that first round, as you got near the end, you knew quarterback was an interesting position that the Giants needed to get eventually. Eli Manning is getting near that time. That's how they were. Okay, this is a perfect time to get a young upstart potential quarterback who may not be ready to start just yet, but with enough experience and wisdom, kind of like with Aaron Rodgers, if he has the time to really soak it up and understand from someone who's been a pro and done it, like I said, Rodgers had for Favre, you know what I mean? And essentially, Tom Brady had that a little bit with Bledsoe. But I'm just saying, even though it was one game. But, that would definitely benefit whoever they would take. Now, there were some guys, in my opinion, the 3 quarterbacks I like the most, in no respective order: Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen. Those were the 3 guys I liked. I did not care for Darnold, and I did not care for Rosen at all. That's just me. I know my cousin was a diehard Cardinals fan. He wanted Rosen. Or not Rosen. I think he wanted either Rosen or Darnold bad, and it was exciting when he got Rosen. Probably a lot more excited now that they have Kyler Murray. But regardless, crazy back-to-back essentially it's almost like nearly back-to-back first-round quarterback choices for that team. But Lamar Jackson, to get the drive the point, Lamar Jackson was there near the end of the first round. I'm sitting in a room with my uncle, and I'm banging on the table like this, just like, get Lamar Jackson, trade up, and pick him while you have the chance. Get him in with the 30th pick. It wouldn't take that much. They have the 2nd overall pick. So they would have the 2nd overall pick in the 2nd round, which would have been the 34th overall pick. And to move up from 34 to like 31 or something like that, just to secure the guy that was falling down, that in my opinion was a first-round talent, and that was Lamar Jackson. I don't know what Gettleman would have done if Lamar would have fell at 34. If he would have passed on him, I think there would never be a situation where I'd be more livid on a true talent being passed than when Jerry Reese passed on Michael Thomas for Sterling Shepard. Just putting it out there. I wanted Michael Thomas, and when he was there in the 2nd round, he took Sterling Shepard. I've never been disappointed in my life. Never. And it's not a knock on Sterling Shepard as much as what was on the table and what you could have had. In fact, he could have definitely taken Thomas in the first round, Sterling Shepard in the second, and you would have had the dopest 3 wide receivers set in the NFL with Odell Beckham. But that's a story for another day. I'm just saying, man, you know, you could have gotten your running back, your Hall of Fame eventually running back, paired with your potential future Hall of Fame quarterback in Lamar Jackson. You could have had that backfield already getting the future excited for the franchise. You would have had Lamar Jackson with Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham. I love Will Hernandez, but the opportunity to take Lamar Jackson, you can't deny that prospect. And to me, it just showed not ignorance, but just oblivious to that idea. I don't know what Dave Gettleman was doing sitting down. And to me, it makes me even more livid when we fast forward another draft year later in the 2019 draft class, and this guy has the nerve to trade up from the second round into the first round for a damn cornerback. And you couldn't do that for a quarterback? And that's why you reach, and that's why you take a player who wasn't your number 1 player on your draft class or in your draft board at number 6 overall. You knew Josh Allen was your number 1 guy, but you went with the quarterback that you felt was more by position of need. You went by that more than you did by best player available. Anyone that tells me Daniel Jones was better than Josh Allen in that draft class, you're hallucinating. I'm sorry, but that's what I believe, especially when you look at his stats and what he's proven to do. I don't care how bad his talent was at Duke. Dude didn't show up statistically on his own side, kind of like how he is doing right now for the Giants. Yeah, you definitely should have went BPA there. Could have had Josh Allen there. And think about it this way. I don't think Lamar Jackson might have not played a single game in 2018. It would have been Eli Manning all the way. Lamar Jackson would have just been on the bench the whole season. So, given that in circumstances, knowing that Mara, who was the coach at the time? Yeah, it was Pat Shurmur, I believe. Knowing that you had Pat Shurmur as coach and you had Mara making sure that, Eli Manning was not going to get disrespected again like McAdoo. You know for a fact Lamar Jackson's not going to really start a game. The Giants would more than likely go in the same record and have the same overall pick at 6. And knowing how everything happened, come on, man. There's no doubt. With Josh Allen falling at 6, you don't need to take that quarterback pick. You don't need to take that reach for a need that you could have had the past draft. You know what I mean? You would have had everything perfect. You could have had everything you wanted. You would have had your running back. You would have had your quarterback. Then you would have got your pass rusher and the next year's first round pick in Josh Allen. You know what I mean? And if you don't go and do a bogus move by trading Odell in the first place, you're content with that. And you already built up for the most part, the front end of your 3-4. You got B.J. Hill, all right? And then in that same draft class for the New York Football Giants, all right, they also got R.J. McIntosh in the 5th round. And if they didn't make that ridiculous move with Kyle Lauletta in the 4th round, a pick that to me just didn't make sense. Well, I hate when teams do that. They take a quarterback in the mid-round thinking that this could be an experiment. No, just go when you know you need that quarterback and you got the best player available like you did with Lamar Jackson just coming up, trade up for him, damn it. Don't sit there and wait. You wouldn't need Lauletta, okay? They could have gotten someone like Deshaun Hand, who went to the Lions a few picks later, the defensive end from Alabama, who's also a Pro Bowl player. I don't know if he's a Pro Bowl player just yet, but he's definitely a big name to keep an eye on. But you had him as an option, okay? And you also had another guy that I like, and it has nothing to do with the defensive end, but Ito Smith. Ito Smith would have been interesting because then you wouldn't have needed to take Wayne Gallman either. Or was Wayne Gallman part of the previous draft class? I think, yeah, he was part of the 2017 draft class. But either way, it don't matter. Scratch the Ito Smith selection. But no, like, you could have had Deshaun Hand add that on top with BJ Hill and RJ McIntosh. Like I said, you play the draft board the way you're supposed to. And look at that. You got those guys on top of Dalvin Tomlinson up front, playing in his most comfortable 3-4 nose tackle position with McIntosh, Hill, and Hand at the rotation on the ends. There you go. Then you could just add on that whenever you can the next following draft. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have to reach for a Dexter Lawrence. You could have just easily built on other positions and stop focusing on certain positions and putting your eggs in more baskets than the other. To me, the positions he paid most attention to was defensive tackle and cornerback. I mean, especially when one draft you take basically 4 cornerbacks. 4. That's crazy. All right? I don't care that you can never have too many corners in this league. 4 corners, and it's like as if you're just trying to get rid of everyone that you had playing cornerback at the same time. You just wanted to do a clean slate. I'm not sure if I agree with that, because then again, like I said, you neglect other positions and the best player availability module that really you can never go wrong with. But that's my point. It's the inability to observe the room and play the game of poker like a true mastermind. All right, this is what made Ozzie Newsome a very, very successful GM for many years. Bill Belichick, very successful. I mean, it shows in his press too. He doesn't really care. But like I said, true geniuses who truly operate at best when they keep things silent, and also when they're more paying attention, observing to what goes around them rather than focusing on what they want or what they need. You know? So to me, it's like if you go with what players you know are really good and you know other teams aren't taking them, why should you skip that player too? Just because the rest of the people did that? No. It's these counter moves that we make where we continue to act like as if, and he tried to, but he's a terrible actor. I mean, he's nowhere near as nonchalant as Jerry Reese was during his tenure with the football Giants. And yeah, that also hurt him too, but it's also showed in the inability to handle the pressure of making those tough decisions when you got to make them. To me, I don't understand why it was such a difficult decision for him to take Daniel Jones over Josh Allen. As soon as that pick selection was made, I think it was NFL Network, they switched the camera to the Giants draft war room camera, and you see Gettleman with his hand on his hips, and he's like this, like as if he felt like he just made the biggest mistake of his life. And to me, I thought the same thing too. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And it's all because of this. You got nervous thinking that Daniel Jones would have been taken, and people want to say, oh, he could have been taken before 17. Well, guess what? Move up from 17. It's not that difficult, okay? You take Josh Allen, and maybe before you take him, before it's your pick, around the 5th overall pick, you know that Devin White gets selected. And you know one of these guys is coming to you. Devin White, you're going to either get him, you're going to get Devin, was it Devin Jones? Give me 1 second. I was wrong. It was Devin Bush. So you either had 3, in my opinion, phenomenal players, defensive players coming to you that would definitely help your defense. All right? Depending on what the Buccaneers take, you had the option of Devin White, Devin Bush, or 2 of the 3 options of Devin White, Devin Bush, and Josh Allen. Then after that, to me, it was easy. You take which one of the 2 defensive player that you felt would be the best to lead your team. I would not have been upset if they would have taken Devin Bush or if they would have taken Josh Allen at 6. Not at all. Either pick, I would have been satisfied. To me, it would have made a huge difference, because it's like, you take Devin Bush, it's like similar to taking Saquon Barkley. You're taking a guy who's gonna be an X factor on your team for the longest of time. Not someone that you build your whole offense around. No, that's wrong. He's just part of the puzzle. To me, Saquon Barkley could be part of the triplet. I think you build around something like similar to what the Cowboys did with Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith. Something similar to that. That's where you got your nucleus. It doesn't just build around one player solely. You build around a group of players. You build around that chemistry and hope that they come through. That's what counts. To me, Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham, just like that, have chemistry. And you see, in my opinion, I don't care what anyone says, they're both two potential, honestly, future Hall of Famers who are selfless and they want to win bad. All right? And the fact that they got off just like that, strong chemistry. You don't break that when you have two superstars like that from two different positions that aren't afraid to be selfless with the ball. You do not break that up. All right? You seen what happened with the Steelers with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Juju Smith. It got nasty. Every now and then you'll see players like that. They'll want to leave another team because they don't feel like they get the ball enough or whatever. To me, that Odell Beckham was a special player. You do not just trade away. Just like Saquon Barkley, you gotta keep that guy. But my point is, back to what I'm saying. Two defensive players, you would have been fine, okay? And while you do that, look, the only teams that could really scare you in front of 17 are the Washington Redskins. I'm sorry, they're not called that anymore. The Washington football team at the 15th overall pick. They were the only team that took a quarterback. Really, who else? I mean, the way I see it, the Steelers still feel like they could win with Ben Roethlisberger. The Detroit Lions are still fighting with the quarterback they finally got, their franchise quarterback. They're not going to be thinking about moving on from him anytime soon. The Jaguars, they're going to go BPA. Who the hell are they going to really take? The Bills already got Josh Allen. The Bengals, they're still working things out with, what's his name, at the time, before he left for Dallas. The Red Rifle. I'm just going to go with that. And they took Jonah Williams, by the way, so they were building up that offensive line. All right? Then you got the Miami Dolphins. Okay, so that's maybe a team that I would say, okay, you might want to worry about the Dolphins. You might worry about the Redskins. The Falcons, they got Matt Ryan, and they're still thinking about Super Bowl aspirations. And, of course, the Panthers got Cam Newton. So, really, what's your excuse about worrying about a team jumping ahead of you? Just you defeat that idea or that fear by trading up yourself as well, okay? That's all they had to do. All they had to do was jump up, maybe call the Miami Dolphins at 13, see if they're willing to move down 4 spots, give them a 4th round pick, maybe a 3rd round. You know what I mean? You give them something in exchange. And to me, that would have secured you at 13. And after the Steelers, Bengals, and Packers make their selections, all right, there you go. And remember, they took guys that honestly they wouldn't move down or away from to pick. I mean, you got Rashawn Gary, Jonah Williams, and Devin Bush, respectively, to their teams. At that time and situation, you call, they're moving down with you 4 spots. I don't think the Dolphins are gonna trip, okay? Especially if you give them a package that's pretty good and allows them to build more on picks. Smart franchises can do that. And I think the Dolphins aren't a stupid franchise, so let's just go by that, all right? And by that virtue, you would have had Daniel Jones to select at 13. But then again, this would never have to happen if you would have taken Lamar Jackson. Then guess what? You take your best player available, and you don't have to sweat it. Like I said, if you do things by best player available, he would never be in the situation that he's in right now. He would have had his quarterback. He would have had his running back. He would have had a strong defense, okay? And like I said, by the next draft in 2019, he would have been going BPA. And I don't see anything wrong with that. And like I said, if they wanted to move on from Eli Manning after this year, 2019, you could start off fresh and with a young aspiring quarterback in Lamar Jackson. To me, that's important. But yeah, like I said, the way he thinks doesn't make sense to me. he won't trade up for someone that he won't believe in as a quarterback, a franchise quarterback, which to me is one bad mistake right there, a knock on you. If you think Lamar Jackson can't be a franchise quarterback, but Daniel Jones can, you're terribly mistaken, especially if you think you could just sit there and wait for him. I don't know if sitting and maybe if that's what he was thinking. He was going to sit and wait at 34, wait for Lamar to fall for him, and then because he didn't, some team traded up for him that scared him and made him want to make sure not to lose out on the next quarterback. That could be a possibility that ran through his mind. But if that was the case, I think you kind of played yourself there, Dave. I don't know what's going on there. Because at the end of the day, that means the next quarterback you like, I mean, it could prevent you from taking best player available and distract you on that because you're only looking at, I need a quarterback. No, we got to move on. We got to move on and continue to build the team. You know you need a couple years, so don't rush it. Don't rush to jump to a quarterback, the first quarterback that you think you can get. Take your time and wait and look out for the better option, because the way it seems like it, the Giants are potentially going to finish with the first overall pick, and Dexter, what's his name? Not Dexter Lawrence, but his Clemson teammate. All right, Trevor Lawrence, with the same last name, same brother from another mother, is going to be available for the pick, and you could have had all this set out for you, but to me, you acted too brash. You acted too reckless in a sense, and potentially cost the Giants an extra few years down the route, a couple years of delay to build their team up. I mean, like I said, what the Ravens are going through right now, the Giants could have been having that same success. Yeah, Lamar wouldn't have as good of an offensive line. If Gettleman makes his right choices and goes for what he sees are available, I think there's definitely consideration for a couple more offensive linemen when you had the opportunity to take them. I know for me, I had Orlando Brown. If I had to go to my notebook here, Orlando Brown was available in the 2019 NFL draft. I definitely would have taken him with my second round pick. And he's doing fantastic being Lamar Jackson's blindside tackle. Yeah, I definitely had him there. Yep. Did I say Orlando Brown? My apologies. Bobby Evans. Well, I did like Orlando Brown, but Bobby Evans was a guy that I was looking at who could have been a day 2 pick. And if I'm not mistaken, I wonder who he went to. Give me 1 second. But no, actually, so Bobby Evans was actually someone I wanted from the 2019 draft, especially after I looked at Orlando Brown, who also came from Oklahoma. And to me, like I said, it chased up the whole draft landscape, because then, in my opinion, the Giants don't need to take Lorenzo Carter in the 3rd round. They could take Orlando Brown. Then, if they were to take Bobby Evans in the next draft class in the 3rd round, which is something I would have definitely done knowing that he was still available, then you just got your tackles. You got your left tackle in Orlando Brown, and you got your right tackle in Bobby Evans. And you're basically solid on the outside and moving forward trying to build on the inside. This would eventually mean that they would miss out on Will Hernandez. But at the end of the day, though, I feel like they could definitely find a lot of talented interior offensive linemen within the next respective draft class. Now, if I'm gonna go check back to the 2019 draft class, because I definitely had a couple interior offensive linemen that I definitely liked. Eric McCoy, of course, someone who was considered to be a 1st round choice, if I'm not mistaken. Was taken in the 2nd round by the New Orleans Saints. So going off by that, you could have just gotten in the 2019 draft, you're the best player available in the 1st round with your choice of 2 of the 3 available defensive player, top 5 defensive player after the Buccaneers take one of them. Then you could have had Eric McCoy available in the second round. That would be your center right there. And then, like I said, round 3, you get Bobby Evans. And you're actually finally giving Lamar Jackson some pretty good blindside protection. The interior of the offensive lineman, maybe they could have chased in free agency, try to patch it up just for the moment until, that as well as, like I said, I looked into the later rounds. There was a couple guys I did like Michael Jordan from Ohio State University. That would have been a nice selection. I don't know where he was selected. But, there was other guys that were pretty good, like Drew Samia from Oklahoma. Would have been a nice pick. Was available in the 4th round. As I'm looking at the list of the players selected, but either way, like I said, if you go by your draft board and certain players from certain positions are available and they are the best player available, you take them. That's the whole point. Right now, I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of the inside of my mind and how I think and how I operate. Now, personally, me, I tend to be an opportunist, but I also look at what the long-term solution, or not the long-term solution, but the long-term potential can be for a player. Yes, immediate impact is always great, but to me, it's just a frosting on the whole cake. The cake itself is what I'm more concerned about. How, will this guy be great for me for 2-3 years, or will this guy be playing light years out for a decade, and I could give him an extension and he'll still keep playing? So it's things like that I consider heavily. But yeah, I think if Dave Gettleman truly was about building best player available, he would have definitely not have gone the route that he has gone now. And he definitely would have a better team at a better record than what they hold right now. Which, to me, if you ask me, I don't care if there's other winless teams in the NFL. I think the Giants are the worst team in the NFL right now. Especially as soon as they lost Saquon Barkley, that's it. They're definitely the worst team. If it wasn't considered then, when they lost their best player that they had on their roster, it's over. They are the worst team in the NFL right now. And to me, look, it's going to be a hard bounce back, but I think eventually they can get there if Gettleman continues to, not if Gettleman continues, but if John Mara and Steve Tisch steps in and tries to figure out something new. Like I said, they don't have to get rid of Gettleman. They can hold him on as a true senior advisor, but they need someone new and fresh who can see ahead of the game, is not still, just not behind the times in terms of what you really want to go off. I'm not trying to say that Dave Gettleman is completely behind the times, essentially, but as far as really understanding how NFL teams, other teams are operating, how to be able to work through the environment, I don't think he's truly up to date on what teams are doing and how he could benefit off their mistakes or what they missed on that you could have taken. It's just, I think of things like that. But that's what I'm saying. I think down the road they can fix all this within due time, as long as they're willing to be open. And like I said, they don't have to fire Gettleman. Keep them, bring someone young, aspiring to be a GM, and have him make the decisions. And I think with Gettleman technically being on the outside looking in, where now he doesn't have to worry about the pressure on him anymore, about knowing that his seat could be hot. If he screws up, it's on somebody else's plate. I think then now he'll start to think much more clear and not be as, and be, have much more clarity on his thinking process and not be so clogged up and nervous as he currently is when it comes to making the big time decisions. So, it's not an easy job. So to me, I don't really want to criticize Gettleman as much. he's worked hard. He really has to get up to where he's at right now, and I have to pay respect to that. I know I have clowned him in the past. Granted, that was out of anger more than reasoning. But at the end of the day, to me, his experience and his knowledge of the game is still valuable to this franchise, and I don't think that they should get rid of him anytime soon. They just should find someone to be the true GM, the decision maker, and I think they'll be fine. But yeah, they're definitely terrible. So the guys, the writers, like I said, I'm not gonna name you guys because at the end of the day, you know who you are. This goes out to anyone that thinks like this. All it takes is a good look out and understand what's going on in the NFL. And if you write something that actually has reason in it and actually justifies your point, I think you definitely will be more looked upon for a potential career advancement. Because right now, when I look at your article and you're telling me that, Gettleman made a mistake taking Saquon Barkley at 2 when he had quarterbacks like Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson, and you put Sam Darnold and Lamar Jackson in the same sentence, you've definitely contradicted yourself. If you haven't seen how Sam Darnold has played the last 2 weeks, he's the only quarterback giving Daniel Jones the run for his money for most overrated and overpriced draft pick in the NFL right now. Look, I think, like I said, eventually things will come in full circle, and the Giants will be back on their feet again. I think